pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. It's great to see everybody's faces for the first time in a year. We're all vaccinated, so trust science. And welcome. Going roll call.
Mayor Gerardo Naya.
Present.
Vice Mayor Juan Castillo.
Present.
Councilmember Marta Garcia. Present. Councilmember Miguel Villalpando.
Present.
Councilmember Carlos Gonzalez.
Present.
Councilmember Luis Galindo.
Present.
Councilmember Jesus Roldan.
Present.
Mayor, have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to start with call to the public. Anybody from the public wishing to address council?
Yes, we do, Mayor. We have, the first is Luis Carlos.
Please state your name and address.
Luis Carlos, 2937 West 10th Lane, Yuma, Arizona. I'm here today. I am a city employee, but today I'm here as a private citizen. The reason I'm here is I want to talk to you about today's presentation regarding the compensation plan. And I'm here to respectfully ask you to really consider that presentation that you will see today. That plan is going to really help us out. We need a lot of help. In the last three months, we've had about 3 resignations. And all of them to the T have all stated that the reason they're leaving is not because Somerton is not good. They love to work here. They love the atmosphere. They love our city. The thing is that they have to be able to maintain their families. A lot of these individuals are making $12.24 an hour. And this compensation plan would address those issues. And I respectfully ask for you to consider that today. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wishing to address council?
We have James Ross.
Radzik? Ladies and gentlemen, council, Mr. Mayor. My name is James Radzik. I am an employee of the city of Somerton. I'm an acre captain at the fire department. And I just wanted to address with regards to this topic of wages.
You can state your address, please.
Yes, it's 2602 West County 18th Street in Somerton. Thank you again for affording me the time to speak with you on this topic. I know the topic of wages has come up in the past, and nothing you're not familiar with, I'm sure. But the growing disparity of wages between us and our neighboring departments has created new challenges. We have open spots in our crew, and we're having trouble filling those spots. I've had an open spot on my crew for over 6 months. We can't get people to apply, and that's new. We've had a couple people leave in the last week. We're going to have open spots on the other crews now, and they've left to non-fire jobs just to get a better wage to better provide for their family. Most of us have second and third jobs. An increase in wage would ultimately prove beneficial to the city of Somerton. Low wages, in this case anyway, is a false economy. Every time we have to fill an open spot with overtime, that's very costly. To frequently hire new people, outfit them, and train them, that's very costly. Retention is key. Retention would help us actually benefit the city by lowering the cost. If we can just get the guys to stay. And an increase in wages isn't the answer to all the problems, because retention of the employees is done through appreciation. But you have a workforce that is far beyond a minimum wage workforce. And yet they're barely earning over minimum wage. They're educated, they're highly trained, they're skilled. Emergency medicine, rescue, fire suppression. This is a workforce it's an asset. It's not a cost. And by increasing their wages, it will show them that they are appreciated, they are recognized. So we never strive for the minimum. The public expects us to be perfect. So I'm asking you to help us meet those demands. We want to be what the public expects. Thank you. I'll defer any extra time I have to the next speaker.
Thank you.
Robert Rodriguez.
Good evening. You may remember me. I used to work here. Mayor, City Council. This has been a thing that's been going on for over...
Name and address, please.
Oh, Robbie Rodriguez, 476 North Marshall Loop Road, Somerton. It's been an ongoing thing with wages since I've been here in over 20 years. There's always been some kind of answer, but nothing's ever really been done. The last time we got, or fire department got wage increases, it was a 2% raise, and that's because the retirement went up 2%. So it kind of evened everything out, and our firefighters didn't really get anything. My time here, I didn't leave because of the wages. I was working 3 jobs to support my family, to where it was to the, I'd say, the pay scale of a starting captain in Yuma. So I had to work 3 jobs to do that. Working in San Luis, working at the college as a fire instructor. But something needs to be done. I'm just now learning a little bit about what's going on, and it's the same old thing that we've been talking about for the last 15 years, that the firefighters really need to be compensated for their education. You have some of the most educated firefighters in Yuma County. You have doctors, nurses, the guys go to school, and I mean, if they went and applied somewhere else, they get picked up quick. But the thing is they love this community. They love where they work. They know the streets. They know they've been going on the same people for many, many years. They know them by first name. The community knows them by first name. And that's what I liked about working in Somerton, is that when I went to the Senior Nutrition Center, everybody knew who I was. And unfortunately, because they were older, they would pass and they would hit our department because it was like we lost a family member, because we would be there with them every Tuesday. So I don't know. When I left, I really thought that things would progress in the part where, wages would be higher. I own 3 businesses in Yuma now, and my starting wages are over $17 an hour. And I have a workforce of 80 employees. So it can be done, and the only reason why I can do that is because of the people I learned from business and from Chief DeAnda, the advice he's given me through my going forward in the business world in Yuma. But it can be done. I'm available to help out. I mean, I used to do that, work with you guys. Some of you guys I've known for a long, long time. Some of you I still work with. And if there's anything I can do to help assist on finding out how we can do this, it can be done, and it's time. It's been over 20 years that we've been discussing the wages of the fire department. And when I come down here and visit, and there's vacancies on units, nobody knows more than these guys and myself that when there's a vacant unit, there's somebody that's going to wait longer for an ambulance to get to their house to take them to the hospital. So I really would like to assist in any way I can to make this happen, to where they don't have to work 2 and 3 jobs to support their families. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wishing to address council?
David Padilla.
Name and address, please.
Mayor, Council, my name is David Padilla. I'm 2539 South 31st Drive, Yuma, Arizona. I'm here tonight as the president of the United Yuma Firefighters Association. We represent about 120 firefighters across all three of our communities, San Luis, Somerton, and the city of Yuma. And so I was talking to the members, and this issue has come up, this issue has come up a few different times over the course of my time with the association. And so this was a great opportunity to come down and address your council, you guys specifically, about wages. So I have a few key points that I want to make. COVID-19 really highlighted the need for public safety to be a fast and effective response force within our communities. Right? Most communities across the state relied heavily on both their paramedics and EMTs, their firefighting organizations, to treat patients, to take them to the hospital at a time where we dealt with a pandemic like we'd never seen before. Right? It was a dangerous time for communities to be losing their skilled labor. Unfortunately, we saw this in the city of Somerton, right? Some estimates range from about 30% of the workforce in the last few years has moved on to work for other fire departments in our community. These are members that still live within the city of Somerton or still live in the greater Yuma area, right, but are no longer working for the city of Somerton. When we see employees like that, when we see our skilled labor leave our organization, right, leave any organization and move to other communities, not only are we losing people, but we're losing years of experience. We're losing years of knowledge, of education that those guys bring to the department. They bring a level of proficiency and a level of professionalism to the organization. So it's important that cities, communities do everything that they can to retain those employees, right? So you've heard other people speak about their experiences of working 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet, right? The council in Somerton now has an opportunity to help correct that problem, and we're really hoping that you guys do. In addition, right, employees across all communities are always the biggest expense for any community. But I want to make a point of expressing how important and how expensive it is when we lose employees as well. All right? Years ago, with the pension system, when an employee left, they took with them their pension liability. So that was great for smaller communities. That's no longer the case. All right? So the city of Somerton is still on the hook for the pension liability for the years of any employee that works within their organization. So now more than ever, it's important that we get a full 20 years of work out of those members, that we get longevity, that we get those years of experience, and that they pass on their knowledge to the rest of the fire department before they leave. In an organization, in a profession, right, like firefighting, where our brothers and sisters are already 60% more likely to be diagnosed with rare forms of cancer, in a profession where our members are suffering from post-traumatic stress, right, from divorce rates that are higher than the average employee, it's important that they're not, in addition to helping our communities and saving lives, that they're not having to leave that job to then go work another job to make ends meet. So whatever we can do as the United Yuma Firefighters, right, we have access to departments across the state. We have resources that we can get to. Whatever we can do, I want to offer that to you guys to help create a comprehensive pay plan that not only fixes the problem today, but helps prevent us from being here every couple of years dealing with trying to catch up in our pay plans. So thank you for your time. I respectfully request that you guys consider the pay plan that is being presented tonight, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Nelly Ethan.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Nelly Tifa. My address is 646 West 13th Street here in Somerset. I think I'm going to use my 5 minutes. So I'm here seeking a sponsorship for my little daughter. She is 10 years old. Her name is Mia Marin. She's a 4th grader in Tierra del Sol. And she started dancing when she was 3 years old. And for the last maybe 3 years, she was begging for us to take her to competition. Well, this year, finally, we said, okay, we're going to take her to a competition. The first competition that she went to Phoenix, she was the smallest of her category, and she won 1st place. With that, she got a full scholarship for the Nationals in Florida in July. And she's, with a full scholarship, she's going to be paying her entry fees, her classroom fees, because it's going to be an intensive week of dance. It's going to be 7 days long. She's going to be there. The first 4 days, she's going to be doing intensive dance classes, like 5 to 6 hours, they told us. And then the last 3 days, she's gonna be competing, she's gonna be learning new techniques, and she's gonna they're gonna be having a banquet award. That's why we're here. So we, of course, did not have that on our budget for the family this year. But I think it's to me, it was just a great honor that she went and competed against Phoenix girls, that they're homeschooled, so they can go dance for 8 hours every day. Her very first dance as a soloist, her very first competition, and she got the title that she got was Miss Junior DEA Arizona. So with that said, she's gonna be the only one from Arizona in this competition for her age division, competing with other girls from the United States. She is not just a great dancer, but she's a great student at the other school. She's in 4th grade. She is an amazing little girl. She's very respectful. I know she will be great. As soon as she goes into the first dance class, they have like a rating sheet for everybody. She's gonna be great even in how she treats other people. She's gonna have an ending interview. She's gonna have to present a new dance routine that she's gonna just come up with in 5 minutes. So it's just why I'm here, just to take the sponsorship. And I know maybe this is not possible, but just she was born in Yuma, raised in Somerton all her life. Me too. So I was just thinking this is maybe a possibility. Like I said, I was gonna bring her today, but I didn't know because of COVID if kids were allowed or not. I know that we will get a sponsorship letter from the dance academy that she goes to. I'm more than happy to ask for a reference letter from the teacher, from the principal. And that was it. And I didn't use my 5 minutes, so that's good.
Thank you. We have the Parks and Rec Commission that has funding for these types of
Sponsorships, so we can
get her the information. But get with Mr.
Cabrera.
Okay.
Also directly walking over there.
Okay. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Anthony Burrell.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Borrell. I am currently at 807 Eastern Mall Street. I'm here as a citizen, but I actually used to work here in the city of Somerton for the fire department. I was a firefighter EMT. Now I'm a firefighter paramedic with City of San Luis Fire. I was one of the few that left the city of Somerton for the same reason that the wages were too low. That was one of the big deciding factors. I born in Yuma, raised in Somerton all my life, but I had to take that step forward because the wages were just too low here. I didn't want to leave. Ever since my father was a volunteer here, I've always wanted to work for the fire department here in Somerton. That was my dream growing up, and the dream became a reality when I finally turned 20 years old. When I turned 13, I joined their Police Explorer program. I was excited, told everyone when I got picked up here full time. I called everyone, I called my dad, I called my mom, like, hey, I got picked up, this is the best day ever. I worked here for 4.5 years, and it was really, really hard to leave. As previously stated, nobody wants to leave. We love the atmosphere, we love the community. I lived here for years. I didn't want to leave, but I had to due to the wages. The wages here, you can't, as they said before, you have to work other jobs. 2, 3 other jobs to be able to, maintain your family or be able to keep your family on track. I luckily wasn't married, no children, nothing. But now that I moved over there, I'm getting paid a little bit more, and now I do have a family and I do have a baby boy now. But I really hope that you guys consider this increasing the wages of the fire department because these men and women are very skilled and they put everything, their heart and soul into the community. They love working here for Somerton. And people are just going to keep leaving if you guys don't help them out. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Carlos Munoz.
Hello, my name is Carlos Munoz. I live in 1900 South Ferris Court in Yuma, Arizona. So I'm a former full-time employee here with the City of Somerton Fire Department. I still work for them as a part-timer. I work once, maybe twice a month, just to help out with the situation right now because they're pretty low on staff. So, like Anthony was actually my partner in the ambulance. We love to work here. I work here probably February of 2014 to July of 2019. Loved every single minute of it. I learned a lot from this department, Diana, our captains. Everybody was super helpful, and it just helped us advance ourselves into our career. Thanks to Somerton, I received my hazmat and paramedic certifications and received a lot of experience. But like Anthony said and many of the other guys, I had to work 2 and 3 jobs. I was working for Tri-Valley Medical Services, as well as lifeguarding, as well as picking up just odd jobs, just to be able to pay the bills. And I mean, the fire department here at Somerton, they're super close, super tight. It's a great family. But when you have to struggle about money, it's just the morale goes down. We're doing the same job that any of the other departments are doing, and I mean, at a point you're like, I just have to move on. I can't be scrambling to pay my bills or not even be able to buy a house. Like me, I wasn't able to buy a house till I got out of Somerton. So many people just see Somerton as a stepping stone. You go there, you get experience, and then you go out and find a job somewhere else because it's just not sustainable here. So again, I didn't leave because I didn't like it. I loved Somerton. I would still be here if the wages will be better. So again, like they said, just please consider this. And these are good people. They put their heart into it, and they deserve it. So that's all I have to say.
Jay Valtierra.
Good evening, folks, City Council, Mayor. My name is Jay Baltera. I live at 458 South Bingham Way here in Somerton. And I'm coming for addressing the community block grant funding that I realize that's up on the table right now. So I'm coming here representing this Esperanza Center. That will be built on 3525 West County 16.5 Street in Somerton. Partial number is 754-18011. A little background on said facility. That will be built on Esperanza Park grounds. Esperanza Park is located right behind the Orange Grove School. And we're in process right now of getting everything together to build a 40,000 square foot facility that will be for the youth in the surrounding communities. The Esperanza Center will be a multi-purpose rec center complete with education, recreation, and the teaching of the trades that would open up opportunities for the youth in the workforce. For starters, we're in need of a fire hydrant on the park grounds. Also, the water pump that is existing on the park grounds is very outdated and in need of an upgrade that would house the Esperanza Center facility. I mentioned about the facility that will be 40,000 square feet. It's 20,000 square feet on the bottom floor, 20,000 square feet on the top, complete with 2 restrooms for the youth, 1 upstairs, 1 downstairs, as well as a full kitchen with enough capacity for an overhead sprinkler system. So the reason why I'm presenting this to the council is in the hope that you would come alongside of us in this project for the youth and help with the fire hydrant and upgrade on the existing water pump. Also, if possible, run a water line to the future building that would house enough capacity to flow for the 40,000 square feet establishment. Thank you for your time, everybody. That's why I came. Thank you.
That's all the forms I have, Mayor.
Anybody else? Okay, moving on to consent agenda.
Approval of minutes for March 16, 2021, regular council meeting. March 30th, 2021, work session. April 6th, 2021, regular council meeting. Any member of council want to remove?
An item from consent agenda.
Is there a motion to approve consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve consent agenda as stated.
There's a motion.
By Vice Mayor Castillo, second by Councilmember Galindo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're gonna move on to presentations. First presentation is by APS regarding annual preparation for summer months.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for letting me present tonight. My name is Regina Toomey with APS, and I'm hoping to be able to share my screen if that's possible. Is anyone able to let me give me the permission to share? Okay, so you may have the presentation in your packet. And this is an annual presentation that APS does to talk about summer preparedness to all of the cities, city councils, board of supervisors and towns, just to reassure everyone that we are prepared for summer. We do have enough power in reserves. I will give you a brief recap of last summer. And then just let you know how prepared we are for this summer. Again, my name is Regina Toomey with APS. Thank you for allowing me to present today. So as you can see in your packet, if you have it, we have a widespread service territory throughout Arizona, including many areas in rural Arizona. We serve 11 of the 15 counties in Arizona. We have 34,646 square miles of service, and we serve about 1.3 million customers. We have nearly 500 substations, roughly 300,000 transformers, and more than 550,000 poles and structures around the state. In January of 2020, we set a bold goal to provide 100% clean, carbon-free electricity to customers by 2050. Our clean energy plan is guided by sound science and focused on achieving environmental and economic gains, all while maintaining affordable and reliable service. We have a nearer term goal of 2030, and that goal includes achieving a resource mix that is 65% clean energy, with 45% of our generation portfolio coming from renewable energy. We will end all coal-fired generation by 2031, which is 7 years sooner than we had initially projected. For a project update in the Yuma County, some of these don't directly impact Somerton, some do. The first update is about the Orchard substation, which is on South Avenue 5.5E and County 14th. That substation is scheduled to be up and running by December of 2021. We're also working on a Pacific Avenue substation near the Yuma Palms, replacing a temporary sub that's already there, and work is in progress to have this completed by December of 2022. And then finally, battery storage in the foothills and Hyder areas, which will really impact the entire county, San Luis and Somerton included. Oh, I just got a message that I can share now. Let me share briefly. 1 second. It doesn't look like I have the option to share on my end, so I'm just going to continue. The battery storage in the foothills and Hyder areas was a project that we were going to start a few years back. The project was delayed, but it's been given the green light. We just had our first kickoff meeting, and this extra battery storage is going to help us be able to harness solar even at night. So obviously solar is great during the day, but at night you don't get as many rewards. So the battery storage is going to be able to help us store some of that power in the evening as well, which will improve reliability throughout the county. As far as summer preparedness, I'll go into each of these bullets in a little more detail. We have generation resources and transmission capacity in place to meet customer and reserve requirements. Infrastructure improvements are on schedule to meet this summer's needs. Maintenance efforts are on track to be completed by the end of May. Coordination with external emergency management agencies have been ongoing. We work with emergency managers, Red Cross, police, fire, to make sure that we have a good relationship and are ready to work with them in case of emergency. Internal emergency preparedness plans and training are ongoing. And then I'm going to speak a little bit about our customer focus and some of the changes we have made in regards to outage response and things like that. So for a 2020 recap, we experienced the hottest summer on record last summer. We had 53 days above 110 degrees and 14 days above 115. We set an all-time peak of 7,861 megawatts on July 30th at 5:34 p.m. exactly. It was 118 degrees. Last summer, we broke the previous peak load record 6 times. And we know some of this is due to students being home, kids being home all summer, parents being home. But last summer was the hottest summer on record, and we were able to meet the needs of our customers. For 2021, if you're looking at your packet, there should be, or the presentation. Oh, Danny, you're sharing it. Thank you, Danny. For 2021, you can see the green bar shows this year. Oops, go back. Are you able to go back? There you go. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties. The bar on the right shows this year's forecasted peak demand of 7,521 megawatts with reserves of 1,111 for a total demand of 8,632. For reference, in 2020, our total resource need was 7,660, and in 2019, it was 7,115. So combining our peak demand and our reserve, we have adequate resources to meet this summer's needs. Some of you may be aware that we have a nuclear plant, the Palo Verde nuclear plant. This is the nation's largest source of clean energy, supplies 70% of Arizona's clean energy. 100% of fuel requirements have been contracted through 2026, and fuel contracts are in place for other APS generating facilities. And as a side note, if any of you are interested, once we have clearance, we do take community members and elected officials on tours of the Palo Verde nuclear plant. You go through the whole process, you have lunch, you have a presentation, and it is really informative. If you're ever interested, we can work on getting on one of those tours. The next slide talks about natural gas transport. The slide you're looking at shows 2 maps. The one on the left is the El Paso natural gas pipeline system, and the one on the right is a Transwestern pipeline system. APS has access to gas through 2 different gas basins, the San Juan Basin in Northwest New Mexico and the Permian Basin in West Texas. And having access to these 2 basins and these 2 pipelines helps mitigate gas delivery risk and again enhances reliability. In regards to emergency management, we have mutual assistance and coordination with neighboring utilities. That one's not on this presentation, Jenny. Fire and emergency management coordination with various federal, state, and local agencies. Go one more. We regularly coordinate with neighboring utilities as well as, again, various federal, local, and state agencies. We have good relationships with the emergency managers and Red Cross directors throughout the state. In addition to maintaining relationships, we also prepare by using drills and exercises, including disaster recovery and load curtailment. So we are preparing year-round for the summer months. As far as our customer-centric outage planning and response, these are some changes that will directly affect the residents of your areas. We have an improved outage map and APS.com resources. We all know when there's an outage, the first thing you want to know is when is it going to come back on? How long is it going to be out? Outage Map will show real-time data for up to 4 hours after the outage is restored. Those changes should be done by the end of May or the middle of June. We are also working on improving communication via text alerts, emails, and making sure that our customers know about outages before, during, and after, no matter how big or small. This past year, we also changed the hours on our customer care center. Our customer care center is now 24/7. If you have an emergency at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, you can call our hotline and you will actually talk to a person no matter the time of day. I skipped over the bullet about ICE reimbursement. If there's an outage, an extended outage, which is usually more than 4 or 5 hours, and you have to buy ICE, we will reimburse you for your purchase. All you have to do is send in a copy of your receipt and we'll reimburse you for that ICE. And then finally, for COVID, APS is continuing to monitor our response. We were really strict with our employees, making sure they followed CDC protocols. We had enhanced testing. We had really strict and continue to have really strict guidelines on what APS employees can do right now in regards to COVID. And the reason was we wanted to make sure that our employees were able to continue to serve the communities, to keep the lights on, and to stay safe. In 2020, we also created the APS Promise. This promise is a promise from our employees to the communities we serve, letting them know that we will create a sustainable energy future for Arizona. We value strong partnerships with the many Arizona cities, towns, and counties, and we will keep stakeholders informed regarding our progress. The final slide is a list of phone numbers. You can save these phone numbers, and I encourage you to save these phone numbers. They have my name and phone number for outage questions, grants, and community partnerships, which I didn't speak about, but APS continues to have partnerships with nonprofits throughout the state. I maintain relationships with those nonprofit partners to get them grant funding. In addition to cities, we also give grant funding to cities. You can call me for just general questions, or if you're trying to get a hold of someone and you don't know what department they might be in, Charlie Molina would be the person you would reach out to for construction or building questions or lineman issues. And then Daniel Ortega, who I know some of you know, is who you can reach out to for higher level projects or planning and scheduling questions. And that is my last slide. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but thank you, Danny, for coming in clutch and saving me. So if you have any questions or comments.
Thank you. Any questions? There are no questions, and thank you, Regina.
Thank you.
Item number 2, presentation by Local First Arizona staff regarding the community branding project status and the findings based on the community and businesses being held January and February 2021.
Queen Mayor, Council members, we have Lisa Nolan from Local First Arizona. She should be online, Andrea, and she will present the findings that they have on the January and February surveys, the community meetings with businesses and also with the residents in Somerton. She will provide an update and also the findings and provide some strategies how to proceed moving forward. Lisa, are you online?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can proceed. Thank you.
Mayor? If you recall, several months ago, actually 8 months ago, or 9, wow. We had discussed as far as the best little city in Arizona and what was the definition of that, and who knows what or why we are the best little city in Arizona. And that was a discussion that we had in terms of how can we get there, how can we have the community, the business partners, and obviously staff and council be at the same page so we can promote our city. And that's the reason why we started having those findings and those meetings in order to address those issues. And there were obviously good turnout. And Lexi can actually, or Lisa can actually mention all that information on her findings.
Lisa, are you ready?
I am. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can see the first slide.
Okay, the cover? Okay, great. Well, Mayor and Council, it's good to see you all again. I might have met most of you, if not all of you, during the branding process. Kind of just want to review what on earth we were doing here and why, and then circle back to where we've landed. So the town of Somerton was able to participate. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not. So the town of Somerton participated in this branding initiative with Local First Arizona. And it was a really unique project because it actually wasn't the creation of a logo. It was more the identification of who you are and how we were going to put you out there into the world. And so this process was scoped so that we would convene community members from all different aspects of the community, whether it be the municipality or longtime members, business owners, even some youth that participated. And we sort of convened those groups to gather this information about the true heart and soul of Somerton, so that we could capture that in a message that could be put out to whatever audience we determine for a variety of purposes. And so this was very unique and very progressive to be thinking about your brand in sort of its role and where you wanted it to play into how you put yourselves out there to others. Specifically, scope of work was to convene focus groups and create what they call a content style guide. So what I'm going to show you here today is sort of the capture of what we heard from those meetings and from our experiences there, and what we would suggest as more or less your messaging, potential identity, and campaign that would then be built out for any marketing that you wanted to do. And so any questions first on scope of work before I jump in? I think it'll make a lot of sense once we get through it. So this content style guide that I'm going to show you would become your sort of reference guide for how you place different messaging, whether it be local messaging, whether it be tourism messaging, or whether it be business recruitment, economic development messaging. It'll outline how you might put yourself out there based off of everything that we heard. So you would reference this in any marketing planning that you were doing in any of those areas. This specifically says this document is a local business and resident-centric marketing plan created to blend the town's pursuits of a thriving and sustainable local economy. It's with collaborative intention that we, the town of Somerton, is attempting to create this unified reference guide to ensure that future marketing endeavors are truly representative of the heart and soul of our town, with the strongest voice coming from our citizens, both past and present. So this captures that. The other thing it captures is a summary of some of the other planning that you've done. So you had done a downtown redevelopment plan, you've done some strategic planning. And so we wanted to tie some of the findings from that into this document, so that they also still acted as a guide for some of your marketing planning and messaging. And so these key principles, I won't read them all. You've probably seen them before and worked hard on creating them, but came from those plans and will act as a guide in some of this as well. Your core values, again, looking at this as a reference, would guide anybody putting a message out there, creating a program, creating an advertisement, creating a new event. They would look at these values and make sure that everything they're doing aligns with what the community has stated is the core values of Somerton. So this came out of our focus groups. Strong and loud was safety, that wanted, to rise to the top as to any messaging being put out there and in consideration of anything being created. A collaborative spirit, that you're growing in two different ways, right? Growing physically and growing in potential and reaching all of the opportunities that you have. Very hardworking community. It's an authentic community. It's a very supportive community, respectful, innovative, friendly, forward-thinking, energetic, and fruitful specifically came out of our conversations. Fruitful again in agriculture, but also in the families, in the conversations and in the personality. And so again, these are reference points for everything being developed that as a sounding board, they need to resonate off of these core values. Strategically speaking, in this document, we felt there were 3 different areas to sort of hone in on. Programmatic initiatives that needed to be developed, initiatives that just need to be enhanced, and other things to promote, right? So in development, we think it's critical that external partnerships that enhance awareness of Somerton be cultivated, whether that be statewide for your events, engaging in organizations like Arizona Association for Economic Development, the Arizona Commerce Authority, which I'm sure is a great partner, but making sure that Somerton is rising in status on the map of awareness for others, getting your name out there through strategic partnerships. Regional economic development initiatives, staying in the loop on what's going on regionally for you guys so that you can play your role and participate at a high level in economic development. Developing long-term viability of existing and potential businesses. I have to tell you, Somerton, just in our time visiting there, stood out as on my radar, and I work across the state in rural communities, as a truly supportive community for their business communities. And we're actually are featuring Hector at the upcoming Rural Policy Forum because of some of your forward thinking on business-friendly policies. So to continue to develop that long-term viability, I think really defines you. Developing local business advocates to engage with this plan. So getting buy-in from your businesses to everything in this document so that not only the town is representing this identity, but the businesses own their role in that identity as well. And developing strategies that extend Somerton's experience following events. So your events are really strong. What happens before and after, along with some signage and outreach to draw people towards you, as you probably have identified in some of your plans. Things that are already strong that just needs continued focus and nurturing, potentially through marketing and this plan, is enhancing your downtown experience. You've got a beautiful downtown, it's growing, got all the potential in the world, so continue to enhance that through the plan that's already been done. Your special events, make sure they don't go stale, make sure you don't peak. Coming out of COVID, everybody is dying to go to events, and rural communities are really benefiting from being a little bit further along in that process. And so I think you have a lot of potential there. Enhancing your cultural heritage and historic character, as I'm sure you know, but this is a defining piece of Somerton and not something you'd ever want to let go, but continue to cultivate and enhance, along with local pride, quality of life, the tourism experience, recreation and community service programs as you have in your strategic plan. And also I think there's an opportunity to enhance your digital footprint. How do your businesses look online? How does the community look online? What can we do with website presence, Google presence, search engine optimization? There's some opportunities there as well. And then finally in promoting this community as a strong, unified community, that you're strong from within. It's unique and it's special. That this is a safe and welcoming environment, that community events, promote your community events statewide, but also continue to promote it inside. There's a saying that says, if you build a community for locals, tourists will love it. And if you create a community for tourists, locals will hate it. So you really want to strengthen your community's participation in the events you already have and promote that. Promote your downtown, promote your small business expansion and growth, and promote your spirit of leadership and heritage stories. So these are things you could build out, and certainly, fruitful discussion going forward. So this is kind of the heart of suggested and conceptual thinking around a message. These are not final designs. Nothing in this is necessarily finalized, especially when it comes to imagery and fonts, but the idea and the concept are what we're hoping that you might adopt here this evening. So there's been some discussion about the best little city in Arizona, and as a branding professional, I have to say the first time I heard it, I thought, yeah, yeah, I hear the hesitation, and a lot of people would probably try to say that. But I have to tell you, as much as we tried to get away from it, we kept coming back to it with a little bit of an accent on 3 key things that are absolutely authentic to Somerton. The number one thing that came out of all of our convenings, conversations, and visits was that Somerton is the best little city for family. Without a question, hands down. This community is family centric, built on family values, and truly unified and strong because of the family unit. So this strategy would be to highlight that best little city for family. This would be the message that you see throughout any messaging, whether it's for tourism, whether it's for economic development, or whether it's for locals. And in everything that's created to highlight these family pictures and the locals that are there and the heritage that's there, to share stories about community members and their heritage that have influenced Somerton to this day. That is the strategy. How do we shine a light on those stories, and where do we shine that light? If we're marketing this message to locals, maybe it's the newspaper and social media. If we're marketing this for tourism, we're using those pictures in the ads, and we're using that message in some of the ads and advertisements. And if we're marketing this for economic development, you could really use this message in recruitment. You know, why do people move and relocate for a job? The first thing they think about is their family. And so each strategy has an outline of what a campaign might look like, highlighting the tagline, the best little city, in this case for family. And then there's descriptive content below it that you can plug and play onto your website, and that you could plug and play into ads or brochures or anything that maybe is utilizing this message. And so those would be messages you would want to review fully, but messages that we created based off the input from your community. The second campaign would be focused more on tourism, and this would be the best little city for events. Again, I mean, just take a look at this picture. This is local pictures. I've never seen events like this. It's just wild, the success that you guys have. And it's because of the authenticity of the events, that your events resonate with the locals that live there and to your history and heritage. So on this one, we put a suggested audience. If you do any marketing planning, this would be the audience you would potentially want to target. And again, this would be highlighting the events that already take place, capitalize on these, and really make sure that more and more people are learning about them through different channels so that you can continue to grow in attendance and grow in impact. For commerce, this would be for business recruitment, attraction, economic development. Again, we added an audience in here that you might want to look at for an economic development campaign. And this would be the best little city for business. Again, it's authentic, it's true. Local First Arizona is a business coalition first and foremost, and the city of Somerton is progressive beyond many in what you're doing for your businesses. And so in this one, we thought a campaign could be to highlight your local family-owned businesses and star employees that have been raised in the community, and really tell some great stories around the workforce, along with the business strength and some of the support that Somerton offers to those businesses to grow. And again, this is some content that could be added in any economic development messaging that's created. And so to see this, again, conceptually, right, in use, we could, place these ads all over, whether it be bus stations or banners or advertising or social media. And depending on placement, really highlight the best little city for family, for events, or for business in different campaigns that are created. And that is sort of the proposed messaging, the outcomes of our meetings, and some of the next steps you could take. I will tell you before I open it up that we also created a brand standards guide. You already had a logo, but didn't necessarily have some of the standards as to how to use that logo, whether you're talking to other advertisers or people that want to use it. So we've created this guide that includes the fonts that should be used, along with how and where to use different fonts, and the color palette in Pantones and RGBs. This would mean a lot to designers. And so we'll provide this to you guys as well, which will be super helpful in making sure your logo is represented accurately. So questions, thoughts, open to input. Excited to hear what you think.
Questions, comments? Everybody's quiet today. Nobody? Well, I'm gonna, hopefully, we start using this, it doesn't get put somewhere under a pile, and we have a plan on how to implement this and how to start. So, the implementation of this plan.
Yes, we're working, as soon as, guidance from mayor and council in terms of if any changes onto the brochure or the branding. Obviously, the next step will be for us to market it more to, obviously, the businesses, start making pamphlets, use it for marketing for events that Brisa will end up using more, and obviously market it to our community more than ever. Bajo el Sol, SMT News, the ones that are people actually read more into what's happening in our city. So it's using that obviously into an area that we don't forget, and we continue using it specifically for special events that we will be having, and just overall usage. I don't want to say on a daily basis, but something that we won't forget, that it's always noted.
Yeah, I feel that, at least you expand the best little city in Arizona. Like it was mentioned, it was like, is it original? But I think just expanding it to events, family, and just promoting that, it just sets a brand.
Especially if we're having new developments coming into the city, now they know, and obviously new businesses, who we are and what we are all about.
Yeah, if I may, I'll tell you, it's really remarkable that you embarked on this initiative, and I think it'll set you light years ahead in some of the planning that you've already done. So often we see a strategic plan created or downtown development plan created, but there's no thought to how you're going to package that and that effort. And this is packaged now. So now not only do you have a plan for how you're going to work towards those things, but you also have a plan for how you're going to share those things. And that, you'd be shocked at how fast marketing can put you ahead of the game. And so I really think by utilizing the content created in this for your messaging and really honing in on this and really owning it as a community, as a business community, and in the municipality, I think, if you get Casa Grande on the phone, this guy, he will talk to you. He uses his tagline in every conversation. So, it just becomes like everybody knows what that identity is. But as potential workers see this, as, potential businesses see this, as potential visitors see this, they get a real, true, authentic sense of what the experience is going to be in Somerton. And so we've created a promise here that I really think you guys can deliver on. And by doing that, you're that much more effective in every dollar you spend on any of your initiatives that go forward. The other thing this prepares you for, should you want to utilize it, is the Arizona Office of Tourism provides a co-op package. It opens up in July. And they position all the advertising. They provide a ton of different packages that you can opt into, and they pay for half. So they match you dollar for dollar in the spend. And so many communities don't know what to put into that advertising, so they can't utilize that match. But you guys could be prepared to do that now. So you really are positioned to be able to share something authentic in all of your initiatives that I think will really help you move forward quickly.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for your time and for the initiative. It was so wonderful to get to know your community.
Thank you. Item number 3, presentation by public sector personnel consultants for maintaining a classification and compensation plan for all positions in classified city service.
Hi, my name is Bob Longmire. I'm with Public Sector Personnel Consultants. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. I'm going to see if I can share my screen as well here. Let me see if that works. There we are. So I think that this is up and running. I thought today we would go through the results of the compensation study, and we can review some of the findings from the market data, as well as where are we now, and then some suggestions and some options on how we can respond to the market data. I think the market is a little bit factual. It kind of is what it is. I think the valuable conversation is now what? How do we respond to this data? Now that we know where we are, how do we move forward? And, staff had asked us to put together a couple options around that. And so we'll kind of talk through some of those options, a little bit of the pros and cons behind each one, and hopefully be able to have a little bit of a dialogue around some of those items. But, I think really to begin, like I had mentioned, we just want to walk through some of those factors. As I said at the beginning, my name is Bob Longmire with Public Sector Personnel Consultants. As the name suggests, all that we really do is personnel consulting for the public sector. We get a chance to work with maybe 30 or 40 cities and counties a year. We've done Yuma, we're based out of Tempe, so we did work in Scottsdale, do a lot of work in California. And so we just have the opportunity to meet a lot of different employees and hopefully ask good questions. I'm very familiar with a lot of the difficulties around recruiting and retaining quality staff. Everywhere we go, people are trying to balance that need to retain and recruit quality employees with financial difficulties that are brought about by COVID and different situations like that. So we're pretty familiar with those conversations, and I think we have some options to be able to resolve some of those issues as best we can. But hopefully just want to be able to provide value to the conversation, as well as answer the question of, where is, kind of what is the market going rate? So ultimately, just to begin, maybe high level, the 30,000 foot view, we were tasked with going out and getting the org charts, the salary schedules, the pay plans from 8 different organizations out in the market to be able to answer the question, where are you? If you don't sell the house, if you don't pull the kids out of school, if you just commute in a different direction, what would they pay you? That's kind of your local market group, right? Places that you really do recruit and compete with for those quality employees. I think there were some conversations around that earlier on in the public comment section, but really we wanted to make sure that we had comparators that were local to you, again, so you can kind of know how are you recruiting and retaining on a local basis. And then also, what are some of the other border cities that are of similar size and similar complexities to you? What are they doing? So a little bit, a lot of local comparators, and then a couple regional comparators who are in a similar situation. As I mentioned early on, I think the market is a little bit factual. It kind of is what it is. And then the question becomes, how do we respond to it? What do we do now that we know where we are? And there's going to be some implementation options at the end and things like that. So I think maybe the high level, again, kind of to keep things at that 60,000 foot view, at least right here, kind of when we begin the conversation, when we went out and benchmarked and looked at the market going rates, we found out that all the positions that we looked at were more than 5% behind market. So there was a decent, a decent gap between where you are and the market going rate. Now, the way that we did that analysis is we looked at what is the market midpoint. So right down the middle of the ranges. How do you compare to the middle of those ranges? So we're not looking at the high end. We're not looking at the middle or at the bottom. We're looking just kind of right down the middle. And what we found is on average, and again, I'm going to say this number and then I'm going to put some context behind it, because I know as soon as I say any numbers out loud, people might jump to some conclusions. But on average, we are about 20% behind that market going rate. Now, do not translate that to every employee needs a 20% increase. We'll talk about what to do with employees here in a minute. But when we just look paper to paper, we're about 20% behind. Now, when we put people back into that exercise, it's not as bad of a picture, but we still have a decent amount of catch up to do. So I think that that's maybe the high level 1-sentence summary of where we found out. So, and I think part of that can also be based on the city's existing kind of stated philosophy from previous compensation approaches is to be about 20% behind UMA. So I know that that was kind of the previous stated objective. And because of that, we're starting to see that that's carrying out those trends to the market in general, that's right about where we're at. When we look at that in various fashions and we kind of look at this data and cut it a bunch of different ways, we can start to compare, how do we line up with other comparators specifically, and where do we line up with, and how do those comparators line up to the market? And then how does cost of living come into this factor? So I think the way to summarize this slide here is nothing really jumped out at us from a cost of living standpoint. So the only real thing that we can do with the cost of living in some of these situations is to say, well, the cost of living in our city is so low that we can afford to kind of underpay people, to be behind market. So in an example, that might be a little bit of an extreme example. If we see that cost of living is really high in all of the other comparators out in the market, but it's really low for you, maybe it makes sense to be, maybe we set a benchmark of, hey, we want to be 5% behind market, or maybe we want to be 10% behind market. So sometimes we can use cost of living to inform how we relate to market. But in this example, I don't think we need to establish, from a cost of living standpoint, a lower relationship to market. The way that this comes out and what I see here is, from at least a cost of living standpoint, we want to kind of set that approach to be at market, would be our recommendation there. Just again, to kind of look at this maybe in a little bit of a different light, you have some positions that are better off than others. Back to my earlier comment, not everybody needs the same amount. Not every position had the exact same relationship to market. By happy accident, some positions are being paid okay. Some positions are very far behind market. So the first thing that I can kind of say to anything is, this is not the rising tide that floats all boats. Some positions need more attention than others. And additionally, if we have limited funds, the way to think about this slide here is, if we have limited funds, we're going to go after some of these blue dots down here at the bottom. We're going to go after some of these positions that are more behind market and get them caught up to market, maybe before we can get to some of these other positions. So again, not every position needs the same amount. Not every position was the same amount behind market. And there was a lot of variation there. Part of that variation was because the city does not have an established salary schedule. So what we wanted to design was a new salary schedule for the city. And to say,
There's a question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, before we continue with your presentation, I do have a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
You did mention, let me gather my notes really quick. You did make a comment that you used 8 communities and their salary ranges in order to compile this midpoint. Where did you pull the information from as far as from each community?
Oh, where do we get the information for those comparators? So, yeah, so like their salary schedules and their org charts, and a lot of that information is published online on their websites. So like the city of Yuma, for example, you can go to their website and pull their PDFs of their salary schedules. So we just request that information from the city. Most of the cities play really nice. Otherwise, we have to do a freedom of information request, kind of just do a records request for their salary schedules. But everybody gives you that information if you ask for it.
Well, I'm glad that that's your answer. as I did go online and I compared the salaries that you use to develop this midpoint. For example, the human resources, you use a minimum of 101,000. This is a human resource manager. You used the amount on the minimum side, which was a little bit over 101,000, and the maximum was 142. But yet, when I went online and I looked them up, the minimum is actually 70,000 with a maximum of 98,000. And quite honestly, I was disappointed as I started going through all this, because that's not the only position that I found discrepancies on. All the positions that I have, from public works positions, even our fire department, there were some that were shortchanged, that were actually lower. And so quite frankly, the numbers that you provided are not correct. So you went through all this and established a midpoint, but yet somebody like me, I mean, I'm not the greatest with computers, but yet I'm able to go online and find all this information that contradicts the numbers that you've provided.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused by that. I'm not sure what numbers you're looking at. I'm not sure what the information you have is. I'm happy
to have the job descriptions. I pulled it directly from the Yuma County website. And again, I didn't do all 8 counties because it was tedious, but after doing just part of it for Yuma County, to be honest, I got frustrated and I said, forget it. We're paying you to do that particular task, and I shouldn't take it upon myself. But just like most of us here in council, we like to double check. And I was quite frankly, I was disappointed, and I have all the documents for the positions in Yuma, but the numbers that you provided are not correct.
Well, let me go back and look at that, because again, I don't have a response to that other than I can tell you that when I went out and I looked and I pulled that information, we copy it down. You know, we don't provide any kind of aging factors. We don't change any of that data for exactly this reason. I want someone to be able to pick up this salary survey and duplicate what we did exactly, because our job is to get it right. We have no other job than to get this right. And so kind of the way you feel concerned about that, I do too. I'm not sure where that cross might be coming from, but yes, our job is to get it right. And we are more than happy to go back and look. And if you found any discrepancies, we can dig in on that and I can provide information back, because you're absolutely correct. Our job is to get it right.
All of Yuma County was incorrect. So except for, I believe, PD was actually pretty much dead on, like 4 cents off. And the fire department, the numbers that you provided were incorrect. And again, some of them, we were shortchanging those particular positions.
Interesting. Let me go look at that. It's possible that there's a new salary schedule that came out since we pulled the data. You know, salary schedules are always updating. They're always changing. You know, there's
pull the data.
What's that?
When was the data pulled?
So we pulled this data towards the beginning of the year. So this data
I looked at it a couple of days ago online, and it's different.
Yeah, it's at least 5 months old at this point.
Yeah, I doubt they updated theirs in 5 months.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm more than happy to check into that and provide you with information back. Did you find that my information was lower than what you were seeing online? If I'm saying there was a rate, that the rate you found online was actually higher? Was there like
the rates were higher, but we have a couple that were actually lower.
Okay, so in the instance in which the majority of those jobs are higher, it sounds like we might have an instance where they updated a salary schedule. They provided like a COLA or something where they adjusted their salary schedule. So when we make statements in relationship to market, that market's always going to be moving. And it sounds like if we went out and re-pulled that the city of Somerton might actually be further behind market than we are representing in this study. Because if they went out and updated and increased their ranges, that means we have an even higher number to go after.
No, your report actually had it higher than they did.
Oh, interesting.
I have a question I was gonna ask. I know we're paying a consultant to do this, but don't we have staff that just confirms and checks, does like a check and balance on this? Does the staff look at it?
This is Jorge Lozano, the city attorney. Can you hear me? What you told us in the meeting is that you are doing the midpoint as opposed to those starting and ending salary ranges that you're seeing online. Is that not correct, or can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's correct. So when we go out and we pull that information, we pull the salary range minimum and the salary range maximum, and then we compare you to that rate based on midpoint. So we're looking at what is the market midpoint and what is the midpoint of the job at Yuma. So if you would to look at the salary range minimum and we're displaying the midpoint, those numbers aren't going to line up at all. You know, if we're looking at maximum, you know, if you went and looked at the salary range maximum and we're showing the salary range midpoint, those numbers aren't going to line up. So we have to line up apples to apples on what we're looking at.
That was explained earlier, so we understand what was looked at.
Yes, and again, it brings me back to my point. Your minimum and your maximum are different from what's actually posted in the city of Yuma's HR minimum and maximum. So I clearly understand how you guys are reaching the midpoint. That's not a debate or an argument. Is that you reach the midpoint with numbers that are not accurate.
Yeah, I obviously don't have anything to say other than that is news to me, and I have an absolute commitment to go and check that and provide information back. I mean, I'm 100% responsible for making sure the data is accurate, and that is our only task. So I want to make sure we correct that for you and get you a detailed back on what happened there. Because honestly, this is one of the first times that's ever come up. Because it's a pretty straightforward process of going and pulling that information. So I gotta dig on that one a little bit, and I owe you an answer there.
And again, it's for me, it's a little frustrating because this is something that we know as Mr. Rodriguez earlier during the call to the public stated. This is nothing new. It's something that we've been trying to strive to get there, and we need to compensate employees, especially after the minimum wage went up from $10 to $12. Mm-hmm. I remember making a comment. Those of you that are making more than $10 just lost about $2 when it went up. So we had to formulate a plan on how to compensate those individuals that were making the $12 at that time. So it is frustrating when you go through all these numbers and they're not lining up, because as you could see, they're here, they're concerned, and yet they're looking at us to make the right decisions, but we can't if we don't have the right information.
And to go back to my question, did we have staff kind of just do a spot check on some of these numbers?
We did get some of them, not all.
And they didn't find any discrepancies?
Yeah, we saw several of them, and obviously, Councilmember Villapando did mention, the ones that we mentioned, we didn't mention.
Thanks.
Yeah, correct. The human resource information, that was completely wrong, because we know that the City of Yuma does have a human resource manager and a director. So, that information was pulled and it was obviously wrong. We had mentioned that before as well. But one thing that we were looking at more than anything else for your initial question as far as staff is concerned, of coming up with a salary schedule. We were trying to come up with a salary schedule, but the only thing we had to compare is City of Yuma, but we wanted to be equitable across the board with City of San Luis, Yuma County, and municipalities that have the same type of population, in order to kind of come up with a good number as far as the salary schedule is concerned. For tonight's meeting, we basically wanting more information or guidance from mayor and council on the salary schedule, not necessarily where we're gonna put people at this point, but the salary schedule. The salary schedule that is being presented, go back to the bottom one. Go down, that one.
Still gotta let Bob finish his presentation before opening it up. But Bob, please proceed.
Okay. Yeah, and just as I guess I would say my kind of final note on that question is, you have our commitment to get it right and in a timely manner, because yes, this is, employees are waiting on this, city's waiting on it, and I want to make sure you have accurate information to make all the decisions necessary. So all the information we have here is based on that market data, and we'll go back and verify and look at that to make sure we get you all of that information. But what we do with that is that information then, we have a new salary schedule where we want to have something that's a little bit more standard. So we begin the salary schedule just in a range 1, kind of to set there at, a rate of 12.15. Now, kind of the spoiler to this is we don't have many jobs that come back with market data that's that low on. So we want to maybe be able to go through and to say, we want a salary range minimum and establish salary range maximum. Found out that the market average is about 50% wide. So the distance from minimum to maximum, we want to be about 50% wide. And then the distance between ranges. So as we move from a range 1 to a range 2 to a range 3, that increases by 5% as we go down those ranges. And then I think the real question that comes from the salary schedule is once we design a salary schedule, now we need to place jobs onto that salary schedule based on market. So we need to go through an exercise that looks like saying, what was the rate for this job before? What's the market going rate? And now which range should we put this job into? So we want to be able to have some philosophy from council on how aggressive should we be going after market. So kind of the first choice in implementation, the first response to market, is now that we have a salary schedule that looks something like this. We can always play with the variables, but a salary schedule that looks something along these lines is now we need to go through and say, all right, should this job be in a range 28 or in a range 29 based on market? So we look at what's the midpoint, line up those midpoints, and then place those jobs onto that salary schedule. Now, the more aggressive we are in responding to market. So if we say the market going rate, for example, is a midpoint of $100,000, should we place that job on a range 25 or a range 24? Or maybe we can't afford to be that aggressive and we need to be a couple ranges below market. So a little bit of a philosophy around how do we respond to market and how do we place jobs onto that salary schedule? Because we start to incur costs. As you can imagine, the more aggressive we are in placing jobs onto market. So if we take your existing salary range and we move it to the right in response to market, we now have employees who fell below minimum of the new range. And at a very basic implementation, we need to make sure at least all of the employees are into their new ranges. Now, I don't prefer having a 1-year, 5-year, and 10-year employee all making the same thing. I'd like to see us moving employees through those ranges based on their time in that position. So that's the next option, is how aggressive should we be once we know a job should be in a range 25 or a range 26 or whatever the number is? How do we move employees through that range based on their time in position. So what we have modeled out is moving employees through their ranges based on the time in the position with an idea to try to get to midpoint in 7 years. We also put a cap on the amount of money that an employee would receive just as a way of kind of controlling some of that budget. We can remove that cap, we can increase it. You know, as you can kind of see, there's a lot of flexibility in how we respond to this market data. But if we try then draw a line, like a trajectory, to say if an employee's got, 1 year of experience, I'm okay if they're sitting on minimum. If an employee's got 5 years, I want to see them almost to midpoint. And we just place every employee in their new range and move them through that range based on their time in positions. Now, if we do that, here's what some of those costing scenarios look like. So I won't go through this in tons of detail unless you'd like me to really get into some of this, but staff had asked us to model different COLA options. And that's kind of the third lever that you have as decision makers. So kind of the first thing to decide is, do we want to have an increase, a COLA, that every employee gets? So basically, is there a 2% or a 2.5 or a 3% COLA that every employee would get? Then from there, we need to move employees to the minimum of their new ranges. And so you can start to see the costs associated with that in each one of these options. Now, obviously, as the COLA increases, the cost of getting employees to minimum goes down, but it doesn't go down proportionately. So every dollar you spend on a COLA, you don't get back on a moving to minimum because not everybody needs the same amount. So if you were to do no COLA and only move employees to minimum of their new ranges, that's around 2.8% of payroll to get jobs placed onto the salary schedule based on market and move employees at least to minimum of that market. Now that's a pretty light implementation. We can always be more aggressive. In a perfect world where we can actually go out and aggressively resolve the market relationship and we can aggressively implement this, I think that we would want to do something that's more aggressive than that option. I think we're maybe a little bit a long way away from bad spending. We can be aggressive here if, financially able, but you can kind of see how some of those different scenarios play out to where we can give everybody something in that COLA. Then we place jobs onto the salary schedule based on market. Then we move employees through the range. That's the three choices. If you vary any of those three levers, we can affect any of these costs. And basically we can meet any budget. And that's my closing thought here, is really we can meet and respond to any budget that the city has. So we can design a plan that says, all right, here's the amount of money that we have. We can go and address this situation. We can it's also not uncommon that it has to be a multiple year implementation strategy. So sometimes we see, hey, year 1, we can do this. Year 2, we can do this. Year 3, we can do this. So sometimes you didn't get into the situation in a year. It might take more than a year to work your way out of it. And then finally, you can maintain this salary schedule in future years. You don't need to hire consultants to do this. Once we set you in the correct ranges based on market, you can call up the comparators every year and say, how much are you moving your ranges and how much are you moving your people? And if you keep pace with that, you should be in a competitive position. And then that way you can spend your money on your employees and not on us. And so that's kind of my final closing thought there is, we want to leave you in a position where you have some self-sufficiency and you can go out and be competitive in the market to recruit and retain the staff. So I ran through that a little bit quick. Are there any questions for me? Is there anything I can answer or anything I can kind of clear up?
Any questions?
I would just say when are you planning on just double checking, the data that you collected and giving us that update?
I'm going to start right after this call. I mean, honestly, I'm going to begin on this right away. I have nothing on my plate that is a higher priority than this. And I'm going to get it to you as soon as I can do so with certainty that everything I send over to you is verified, documented, and correct. So it's my top priority.
Thank you. I wanted to hear from, the council members, well, what are their thoughts on moving forward? I think, I'm going to start with my concerns right now, and I've requested it in our last meeting was, for the last 2 years, we've been, we were shown that our revenues were
less than our expenditures, and so I want to look at our budget and see if we can afford it, because we do see that the need, but then again, our revenues are not equal to what Yuma is and what San Luis is, and there's gotta be a balance between, what we can pay and what we can afford to, and but I would like to see a COLA, that's where we can have it, and also prioritize those positions that we've been losing people. We did that last year to the police department, and we saw how it impacted. We haven't had a full force in years, and now we have it. So I know we can't do an across the board adjustment, but if we prioritize those that we know that we've been losing every year, and if we can afford it, of course, look at what our revenues and expenditures, and still have some funds for projects that the public is expecting. So at least that would be, but I would like to hear from other council members too, what their feelings are. So staff can get direction and go back to the drawing board. So I'm gonna start with council member Rodana.
Mayor, I think creating the new salary schedule is good. But at the same time, we go back to a couple of years before the prior finance director. We were told that everything was good, numbers were good, and then we did we voted on something, and we ended up coming back later on that it was not the correct data. So I think it's good that we have all this in place, but at the same time, we have to be careful ourselves, and like you said, Mayor, just make sure that we have our revenues, and expenditures there. We don't want to be upside down and make a decision just because we need to. I think at the end, it all comes to money and the revenues that we have. Like you said, also, we have to prioritize. If we find out that we're good in that situation, then we have to prioritize, the positions or the departments, and then go from there. Start changing, like on the presentation said, 1 year, and then the next year do another positions, and then in 3 years we don't have to do everything at once. But at least we have to start, creating this schedule, and then make sure our funding is there, and then start working on that salary schedule, by prioritizing the position.
Yes, this information that we got is very useful for us, but as we noted that some numbers are up or some are different, and just by listening to the fire department, coming and expressing their voices, I feel that I'm in the medical field and we're always underpaid, and I do feel your pain. I feel that we need to bring you up to standard, because I've always said, City of San Luis, City of Yuma, transportation, you get the same patient. It doesn't matter just because Yuma is bigger, you're going to get a different patient that doesn't have HIV, AIDS, hepatitis, or you name it. You go in the field and you don't know what you're getting. So you're exposed the same as San Luis, Yuma. And I've always said, if it was up to me, I would give you, up to Yuma and San Luis. But I'm not the expert. I guess, Jerry, the city manager and the finance department, they have the numbers. You know, I don't know if we can give them what midpoint or what's on. I would like to hear from the finance department, from Jerry Cabrera, to see where can we, you know, check and balance, because we cannot just say, okay, we'll give you up to exactly as Yuma, and we're gonna be hurting the city, like the mayor said, you know, we have to check and balance, and I'm like the expert, we just get the information, and we are, according to the information, it's incorrect, and I would like to hear from, I don't know if Sarina is here to let me know how will it affect the budget.
That's next conversation. Obviously, we're trying to get, again, salary schedule, the biggest point for today, getting some guidance from mayor and council. Where we place folks, that's a conversation that we're still continuing to have. Hopefully, we should have it by Friday. So Rena's out today, she's ill, but this conversation has been going on for several months to make sure we place folks, and revenues and expenditures are available, obviously, for information. And that's going to be the next step to present to council before any of the decisions are made anyways, to make sure that those are available for your review. I mentioned to Mayor earlier today that we'll have that information and present at least to 2 or 3 of you, and then go from there in terms of present it to council at that point. But those are going to be available here soon. Yes, Mayor.
You know what, I think, you know, I think for me, the biggest question is, I think the salary schedule is, it's great and everything, bringing them up to market. Yeah, I think it's wonderful if possible. But, I think to me, the biggest, it comes down to, is it sustainable? Where's that money going to come from? Because I think if it was up to us, and I think I can speak on behalf of all council here, I think we would love to bring them up to market and even a little bit more. I do believe in the retention of highly qualified, staff members. But again, we have summer, Yuma and San Luis. I don't think it's fair to kind of compare ourselves to those cities, because in an analogy, I'm going to use baseball. It's like comparing the Yankees and the Dodgers to Florida Marlins or the Tampa Bay Rays. Somehow the Rays make it work. So I think to me, is it sustainable? I would also want to hear from Zarina and from you. See, what's the plan for it? I know you guys are looking for guidance on our end. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the numbers that you guys present to us, to the plan. Thinking long term, we'll be able to give them this raise, great, but then what? What are we going to sacrifice from it? Being in the committee for health, on the health committee, I know a lot of us said, oh, we have great benefits. That's what's going to motivate our staff to stay. Obviously that's not happening. But so to me, I think it's that, just hearing from Zarina. What is the plan to sustain it? If we do this, if the decision is made for that, I guess where are we gonna, where's that fund gonna come from? So, I would be for it, but I think I need that information to just make more of an informed decision.
Councilman Gonzalez.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank all the fire department employees for being here and express concern. Same thing with the ex-employees for the city of Somerton. I like to do things very simple. I don't know if you guys recall, about 3 or 4 years ago, we pumped out some salaries without even going to any kind of data. We gave some extra money to directors. We pumped out their salary because there was, we didn't even need a study on that. But again, now it's a different story. We have different people here with us, and the best way to go is just just look into the numbers, the finance, and if we can, my recommendation just to present us you know, council, this is what, make it simple, you know, this is what we can afford, you know, and I'm pretty sure the numbers are there and we can pump it up and come up probably close to San Luis or Yuma. But, you know, let's try to make it simple instead of bringing all this data, giving back, because we've been doing this many times already. Like, Alfonso mentioned a while back when he was talking to a presenter that was here, consultant. We have talked about pumping up salaries, but we haven't really got anywhere. We haven't even created a salary schedule. So I think to make it simple, you know, just get together with Serena and look at the numbers, HR and city manager, and if we can, fine, present it to us, and yeah, we can go 5%, COLA, et cetera, whatever, and just, if we can get to where we want to get to all of our city employees across, you know, across board, let's do it, you know. And I understand the concerns, and just like they're here, I know the other employees could be here as well, and extremely concerned that they're not there yet, you know. They would like to, especially those that have been here with the city for 15, 20 years, you know. So I say, you know, look at the numbers, and if we can, let's move forward and do it, you know. It's like, you know, we're going to be losing employees pretty much every year. So again, I will hate to come back again 2 years from now and talk about the same thing, you know. And I know Robbie talked about it since he's been here. We've been having this issue. So again, I appreciate it, but we have good staff, you know, that can help us out and create a good salary schedule and look at the numbers, and if we can, you know, why not, you know? Let's move on, and I hope we can help every employee that we have for the city so that we can retain them.
Well, I'm pretty much on board with everybody else. I think it's time to stop kicking the can down the road and actually start doing something about it. We did do it for the PD, so if we adopt that model for those positions that have a high turnover rate, and I feel that that's something that we can address and maybe we should do immediately. As far as a compensation study, obviously, you know, for me, I'm going to have to wait until I get accurate data. I do have some recommendations, and it falls back to the committee that we established that was reviewing all these positions. You know, we still haven't cleared that. So how are we going to adopt this compensation study or range if we haven't even finished reviewing the positions? You know, the other thing too is the committee can work on creating this salary range. They already have a beginning, you know, so they're not going to start from scratch. You know, staff is the ones that recommend, and the consultant is recommending. But if we establish a committee, Mr. Rodriguez is here. He said that he's willing to help out however he can. He's worked for the city. He's a business owner, so he'd probably be able to view it from both sides. And this particular committee should probably be the one giving out those recommendations, because at the end of the day, he's a member of the community, and it's going to affect his pockets as well. You know, this money, all the money that flows through the city is not our money. You know, it belongs to the members of the community. So they should be able to provide feedback through these committees. And also, while they're doing that, is would like for them to review the qualifications. Some positions, qualifications are the same across the board between San Luis, Yuma, and Somerton. PD, fire, they're pretty much the same. Some in public works, but as we all know, those of us that have been here the longest, sometimes we have people that don't meet those qualifications. You know, fortunately, some have worked, some of them haven't. You know, so that's a consideration that needs to be taken and looked at, of whether these qualifications are realistic for us or not. You know, Yuma has their standard or qualifications, San Luis has theirs, but they might not apply to us. We don't know. And so I would like for that particular committee and it's a good representation because we do have employees. We do have Councilwoman Garcia that's on there. So I think between all those parties, they should come up with a salary range that could work for the city, granted, you know, funding being available.
Councilwoman?
Mainly in agreement with most of council members. I do believe that we need to implement a salary schedule though, because our staff needs to have that range, something set in policy, not just, you know, throwing out numbers, not having any type of schedule for them to even plan accordingly. I do believe that we need to look at the numbers more thoroughly. This might take longer than expected, but as far as, you know, fire, some public works, our dispatch, those are positions that I think, and like they've expressed, that we need to look at immediately. We can't afford to keep losing, you know, good employees. We've all seen the work they do, whether they do it here, whether they do it in Yuma, whether they do it in Douglas. You know, it's the same, like they mentioned, you know, it's the same work that they perform. It's the same, they're out there representing our city and putting their lives on the line. I do agree that we need to look into this salary schedule further, look into the numbers, have, you know, form a new committee, have additional members in the committee, but I do think that we have to take care of, you know, these particular departments, like we did with the PD. I'd love to see fire up to where they say, oh, we're only missing one, you know, we're only down one firefighter, like PD, we're only down one police officer. But, you know, I do agree it has to be sustainable, but I think, and I truly believe that we can get there. We need to act on it. I believe that we need to act on it before, you know, moving on to this salary schedule. That's just my point of view.
Yeah, so, I guess for HR, you can provide council the list of what positions we were having the greatest turnover over the last years, whatever seems adequate. We can start working with finance, at least looking at our COLA, you know, see how that would look and prioritize those positions that have been that we've been losing and that we are in need, and if we can form that committee and start looking at comparing and actually looking at qualifications and setting certain metrics in order for whenever we adopt a salary range that we are meeting the market certifications, degrees, or you know, what's required. And does anybody else want to add anything?
I just want to say this, and I know that we're all kind of like, we want this to get done fast, soon as possible. Because, I mean, we have talked about this, and we have worked on salary schedules before, and we have not really completed anything like thoroughly yet.
What I think council is that they expressed that they want to address those positions that we're losing, but we also want to be patient on how we move forward, because we're looking at, you know, our revenues. We still don't know if the state is going to we've been hearing that they're gonna affect our state share revenues. They're gonna reduce them, so there's still a lot of, we had the pandemic, people stayed more at home, we had better sales tax, so it's something that, some areas that we are concerned and we wanna address as soon as possible, some that we wanna take our time and actually look at everything. So it's a whole program. It's not something that we can do right away, but the council did address what the concern is. And I think there's some positions that we know that we can get the certifications, degrees, and look them side by side, and we know which ones we can address as soon as possible.
Mayor and Council, there's a couple of things to always consider. Obviously, at least for today, I was more worried about the salary schedule, not putting positions at this point on the salary schedule or the job. So the salary schedule in itself, it seems equitable across the board because it's only a salary schedule based on $12.50 now. It can change and probably will change when and if the minimum wage goes to $15. Those ranges are going to bump up. And so that's going to happen here maybe 5-6 years or what have you. So that salary range is going to change. But in essence, we've never had a salary range. I think 2007 was the last one. I think 2015, Hector worked on it, and always it's been the city of Yuma. City of Yuma at 80%. And that's the biggest concern that I've seen is taken to the personnel committee to remove this 80% because it is concerning that some folks, and I think we did with PD and some other positions, were not at 80%. So it doesn't make sense to have that 80% language in our policy. That whatever we do with the salary schedule, that's conflicting. One adjustment does not make sense at the 80%. So that needs to kind of
on the 80%, and I don't know if I'm recalling this correctly, but when Hector was the interim manager, we did remove that, and we worked, unless it was never recorded or something, but that was something that when we adjusted a lot of the salaries, and there was like a step program, and I remember seeing it, unless it was never adopted or never recorded, but we did have meetings on it, and so the 80% at that time that was removed, at least that's what I was. That's what I recall, and that was 2016, and
unless
so
it was.
I think that was Hector's greatest accomplishment.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Actually, the resolution was never amended. We work on that number, we make some changes, we increase the ranges of some of the police and those departments, but the actual resolution approved in 2007 was never deleted. That's the one we need to eliminate and then do a new one. Thank you.
Yeah, that is still in policy. Doesn't work all the time, but it's on there. The other thing as far as guidance is concerned is, we did look at, can you go up to the cities that we were comparing to this? One thing is that these are the cities that we are comparing to. There's a couple of things. Either we want to be comparable, and the other one is actually be competitive. And those two are very distinctive as far as competitive with our own municipalities, but compared to, some of those populations. So some of those cities that have kind of the same population, I know that it was mentioned maybe just using City of Yuma and or San Luis in Yuma County, but this is the competitive in our region. So there's two distinct situations there that, we might need some guidance on. But if we keep this, at least for the salary schedule won't make that adjustment anyway. The salary schedule it goes back to $12.15 with a 5% increase per range. So that's kind of simple, kind of like you mentioned, Mr. Gonzalez, Councilmember Gonzalez, regarding simplicity. And at least for the salary schedule, it is simple. Now, again, with the committee putting folks in place, that's a different conversation that we'll end up having.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion to go into public hearing? There's an item. Is there a motion? Motion by Councilman Villapando, second by Councilman Gonzalez, also in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item we have in public hearings regarding an application to the Arizona Department of Housing for Community Development Block Grant, Fiscal Year 2020-2021, regional account funding for one project, Somerton Heights.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Yolanda Galindo, CDBG consultant for the City of Somerton. This is the last series of the public hearings for the submission of the regional account CDBG funding. This year's funding allocation is $617,016, and it was suggested that we submit an application for the Somerton Heights subdivision. That's going to be into 2 phases, actually. The CDBG funding would be for phase 1. Applications are due to the Western Arizona Council of Governments on Friday, and then due to the Arizona Department of Housing July 1st. Hopefully we get a contract for funding mid or late August. Any questions?
Any questions, comments? Anybody from the public wishing to address council?
Oh, question. Ilana, what do you think about the salary system?
About the what of the salary you said?
Salaries.
Can you go ahead and put a grant administrator position?
Well, that's up to Jerry. We've asked for it.
That is not being recorded, right? Oh. That was just like.
I have a question. We had our CDBG last year, right? No? Was it Sopala Gardens, part of that was completed this fiscal year?
Mayor, council members, the Socalo Gardens was regional account. Regional account is every other year.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's this year is City of Somerton and City of San Luis. Next year will be Yuma County and the town of Walton.
Okay, so this is different funding?
Yeah, this is totally different funding. Socalo Gardens has been closed. What you have right now is Fulton Street and Council Avenue improvements, and that was through the state special projects, the SSP funding. And that is forthcoming as well.
Okay.
You did mention wake up. And you mentioned wake up.
Yeah, Councilmember Gonzalez, yes, because they're the COG for this region, and they distribute the method of distribution through the state of Arizona. Since we're a pass-through, we don't get the funds directly from HUD. We go through the state, and they're the COG. We have to submit the applications to them. They review it. If any questions, then they take it to their executive board for approval, and then they submit to ADOH as well. But they're a technical assistance, but not really. But they should provide technical assistance for each community on each CDBG application.
Is this a competitive grant, or is it?
Mayor, no, it is regional account.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to exit public hearing?
So moved.
There's a motion by Councilman Gonzalez, second by Councilman Galindo. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Galindo.
Another motion.
Moving on to new business.
Hold on, Mayor. Well, I believe we have another motion. For the resolution itself.
Is it in the agenda?
Yes. Oh, yes. But on the air form, it has the required steps.
Okay.
Motion to exit, then motion to approve the resolution.
I think it should be part of the agenda. No, it's not a listed item. It's public hearing, and then it's not a listed Public hearing is public hearing, and then there's no action in public hearing. It should be listed as. Yeah. But it's not listed on the agenda. It's listed there, but not as part of an agenda. But, well, I'll leave it up to you, and we can, if we're fine, then I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2021-006.
It's not listed on there.
So Mayor and Council, there's a few different ways of doing this. Yes, traditionally, we do have resolutions listed differently as a separate agenda item. Clerk and I, however, researched some other neighboring cities. For example, we looked at the San Luis procedure, and their procedure seems to adopt this new procedure that we set up in the agenda, where we have the public hearing, we close the public hearing, and immediately thereafter we entertain the motion for the resolution. So if that's, my recommendation is that that's allowable, but if you do want to see it as in a separate line item listed on the agenda, then we can go back to our old way. But yeah, we're always looking at ways to expedite or to make things flow a little bit better on the agenda, and it just makes it a lot more sense to have the resolution immediately right after the public hearing.
Okay, I'm fine with that, but, you know, in the future, we can at least describe it as the,
as part of
it, there's gonna be approval of resolution. There's a motion by Councilman Roldan.
Take that.
Okay. Second by Councilwoman Garcia, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstain. Motion.
Don't trust your city attorney?
Moving on to new business. Discussion and possible action to approve City of Somerton events for fiscal year 2022.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brisa Garcia, Special Event Coordinator. This year, Economic Development is looking into adding 2 new events / block parties to this year's events calendar. The first one is an off-roading event, and the second one would be Cinco de Mayo celebration with a promotion event. There is a typo for the Josefina Yepes Walkathon. It should be 500, not 5,000. And the 3 city events that the city usually sponsors, I'll make sure they qualify for city requirements.
Any questions or comments? I have a question. Is it just approving events depending on budget, or have they been budgeted?
They haven't been, as far as when we went through with Sarina, all of them were part of the budget itself, the whole process. But and essentially want to approve the event itself, knowing that we want to secure some dates for some of these events here soon. And if we wait till June, it'll be kind of really late. But in essence, yes, I've spoken to Sarina regarding all these events, and that hasn't changed as far as the budget, other than those two main new events. Well, not new events. One is we consider just increasing the amount, and the other one is a new event that we're working on.
So which one are we considering increasing the amount?
For the increasing would be Lucha de Mayo, which is the Cinco de Mayo celebration, and the new event would be the off-road event.
Can you make the numbers bigger?
Or at least, yeah, we were over 40 here and we can't. Yeah. Our retinas are detached from our.
With the toilet we have in front of us.
You don't want that, Mayor.
Sorry, look at me.
we have laptops for use for July.
And one of the things that council has always requested that we want to see an effort on the fundraising, on the sponsorships. And that's something that we reduce the amount of the special event funding that we had about 3-4 years ago, because we want to see that. We want to see an effort in the fundraising sponsorship. So hopefully we look at that, and in the past we've had work sessions, and one of the things that came out, and hopefully that's taken into account. And I know that for the off-road event, it's been done, but we want to see for all events is a committee, not just one person working on it. We want to have diverse opinions on how something will work, because if we get groups involved, that's when the special events are more successful. And we've seen when one person tries to do everything, no matter how great the event is, there needs to be an effort, a group effort, how we do things. Maybe we're gonna have another work session looking at special events, but that's been the direction, and you being new to this position, hopefully that still is carried with the intent of having sponsorships and having committees for each event, and always having the lessons learned. And after each event, we want to see a financial report to see if how much money we're making, the revenues, expenditures, and it doesn't mean that we want to see a profit on each event. We know that it's a quality of life, but when an event is not well attended and we're spending money, that's when we decided. But that's, committee will work, but we want to see and have a standard set after each event, give it 3 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever the city manager feels that council needs to get a report on how we did. We want to see the sponsors. We want to see and a report. We got some reports that we didn't know what the heck we were seeing, but Serena got involved and they got a little bit better. But those were submissions that in the past we've had with special events and that we want to see improved this next fiscal year. At least I want to see, but that I'm talking from years past what council has said, unless somebody else wants to add something.
Mayor, I do agree 100% with what you're saying, especially after each event needs to be evaluated. And, kind of like pros and cons, what can work better, just kind of like with your whole community or department heads that you're working with, get together and just look at, attendance and entertainment, pretty much do the whole picture, like I say, we're not here to make money, but it is to kind of like, if we're gonna put $20,000 to an event, we'd like to see at least people attend the event, but again, it's a lot of teamwork, and like you say, you are a special coordinator, but it would be nice, and I'm pretty sure you are, with other department heads, you guys talk and try to help each other, because if you look good, then everybody else looks good, and vice versa. But again, in regards to the, like I say, the entertainment and everything else is a big factor, and marketing, sobre todo. But and just look at the budget. If something doesn't work, what can we do better? If not, create another event that will work. But let's just stick with the same event if it's not working, because we just want to continue doing it. If it doesn't work, let's move on to another event, But again, I do have the same concerns that the mayor has, that we have always asked for reports, and since I've been on board, I think we have only had one,
So sorry to interrupt, my first event was the May 7th block party, and I did add all that information on my report that I gave to Hector. I put the cost, and I was very honest on what I felt about the event. So I don't know if you guys were able to read that report.
It was on the weekly report, economic development, the breakdown.
That was something that was told to me when I first started this position, that they wanted me to make sure to be honest with myself of how I felt about the event and what I could have done better, and that's exactly what I did.
I would like to ask, when council asks for specific information, point it out so we can see. So many times, it's like, I see economic development and I just skim through it.
Thanks, Mayor.
Cut and paste every.
For future.
But yeah, it's important to point out if we request certain information, because sometimes we read each report, sometimes we don't, and it's the nature. We would read everything when we know it's cut and paste every week. We're only going to read if we want to see specific information. So it's good that it's there, but it needs to be pointed out too.
Would you consider us, you wanted to present to council at a council meeting?
No, it doesn't have to be that. It can be just emailed to council.
Okay.
So I can assure that I can send it to Andrea?
If we're
And then
giving
forward it to
away
council?
buying fences, then we want to be presented to council.
And just a suggestion on the report, what also include, and that'll give you a better picture, include what, I know that we don't make a lot in sales of, sodas or beer if it's sold, but at least it'll give you, a better perspective on, your next event. But, the cost and what you made, include.
I believe in I think I added the in-kind services, which was Pepsi, and I also.
You just added the actual cost and then the in-kind sponsorships.
Okay.
But not what you made. I know we don't make
Out
a
of
lot,
the two,
but at
okay.
least, we can have that picture.
Perfect.
And I think Serena can assist. She had a template with the previous special event, so that can be, she's the expert on how to show information.
In that meeting is pending, she already offered it to me, and we're in process of scheduling a time with her, and also Griselda's gonna help me out.
One thing I want to point out here on the annual Mayors by National Bike Ride, it shouldn't have an apostrophe because it's not mine, it's the mayors of the region.
I thought you were gonna tell me you were gonna do the whole.
Well, yeah.
From miles all the way to Mexico.
This year I will. Can you scroll down on it?
On some of the events, I did call the committee members just to ask them about the date. For example, for Cornfest and Tamal.
Tour of Fields, when did we, what's that, and when did we include it in the city-sponsored events? I've never seen it come through.
I believe from what I was told, they do a semi-stop at Council Park, or not Centennial, I believe, and they take pictures and we provide them with water.
But the issue with the city-sponsored events, there's a resolution on adding those events. So if it's not approved by council, it's not a city sport. We can, I'm not saying that but to list it as such, it was, those events were passed through resolution, intro policy, a class of what we sponsor. So it just, understand that it's here, but then again, I have an issue when it hasn't been through council and it's city sponsored with the definition of it. It's just.
And I apologize, Mayor. I went off the last spreadsheet from the previous event coordinator.
Mayor, if you will, Councilmember Gonzalez can answer that question.
Yeah, and the tour field, because I'm part of the committee, and also the part of the coalition for the bike county from Yuma County. And the plan was to do the Tour de France, starting point here in Somerton, and we had met with, pretty much all the, department heads, just to kind of, and the only thing that we were requesting was, well, that the committee was to, the coalition was to start at the park and start and finish there. And, Parkland was gonna help us out with the banner, promoting the city of Somerton and Centric logo, and what else, we talked about that? The backdrop. Yeah, the backdrop, and, but the rest of it was gonna, I don't think we really asked for any, well, the coalition didn't really ask for any kind of a sponsorship, besides just, doing it here in the city, starting in the city of Somerton, because they really want to do that. And every year they're trying to move it to like a different city, so they were thinking, and the reason we stopped at that because of the pandemic thing, but I think we're looking to doing it in, I think it's September, November.
I'm not too sure, the gentleman came last.
Yeah, we need to get together again, and, but, because I noticed there is it $5,000 or $100 for the, to the friends?
That's 500.
Oh, $500. Yeah, because they pretty much have all the sponsors that they go to the county. But I mean, if the city wants to have about $500 for the coalition, that's up to the council to decide.
Well, and we have a system of how to do that. That's why I'm saying the way they're listed here, even the off-road event, it's not a city sponsored, it's a city event, at least as far as we know. So it's just city sponsored events. There's only like 3 or 4. It's the Tamale Festival, the Corn Festival, and I think it was Toys for Tots. No, Greater Days is a city event. It's not a city sponsored. So there needs to be a distinction between that and yeah. So. Any other comments, questions on it?
And just going back to this case, I remember I did a whole paperwork and all the city sponsor events and the city events itself. It's completely different. We only have 2 city events, which is the Corn Fest and the Tamal Festival. The other are sponsored events, but they're not city events, so they have to be looked into a different perspective.
Okay.
When it comes to insurance, et cetera, that's, if it's not a city event, then they're gonna have to come. They have to have their own insurance when they do the event. So that's one of the things that we need to do.
Like we have a mechanism. If they don't meet our policy, they can always go to the Parks and Rec Commission and request funding, and that's something I think that council doesn't want to see every organization coming if they don't meet the policy, or if they need to go through a process. So that's something that.
If I may, Mayor, we approve a form that anybody that is requesting money or we're sponsored from the city needs to be filled out. And so that's the first step we got to do, fill it out and see if they qualify to be sponsored.
Any other comments, questions?
You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Especially on the videos.
Yeah.
Just a comment, Mayor.
Yes.
Lisa, thank you for looking for events so we can, all the way from younger kids to adults to seniors or whatever. I think we need to be, thinking about all the people, all the citizens that live here in our city. So even our pet is, so that's good, the Dia del Niño, is that a new event that you're planning to do, or that?
No, sir.
That's something that is done within the Yucatan Library, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I believe that amount had already been set.
But it was 250, and I see that it's 20 much. It was 35. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for looking into the events, and I think, you know, like Mayor said, and Carlos says at the end of the event, you know, if it's not well attended, then we have to do something about it, either remove it or come up with a new idea or whatever we need to do so we can promote those events. I think this is the PR for our city, you know, bring people from not only our citizens, but also from other cities to come and participate in our events.
I'm glad to see you in person on the video.
I know.
No, thank you for all the feedback.
Yeah, and that's, you know, like I mentioned, the greatest accomplishment was removing the 80% that Ian's was doing that policy. So hopefully you become an expert on it and know it. So, because you're going to be dealing with those type of questions and events, and that's something that I've also mentioned it to the city manager. There was something that came up, and I was like, we have a policy for it, so we gotta follow it. I don't want to be seeing it in an agenda or council. So that's also goes to the city manager.
And I think one of the things also that, and I saw it today, that when somebody came and asked for a sponsor, the direction is go to Production Commission, because before everybody was coming to council to do it, and so I think that's what they're trying to do is follow the procedure, what we need to do, so everybody will be in.
And that's why the Council Rec Commission does those fundraisers, so they have funding for those type of requests. Is there a motion to approve special events?
I'll make a motion to approve, City of Somerton events for fiscal year 22?
Second. Motion by Councilman Gonzalez, second by Vice Mayor Castillo, with a correction on this. Is there a second by Castillo? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
When Villalpando's nice to you, you're doing something good.
Thank you.
No, he's not. He's very good, Oh, my God.
Okay. Summary of current events.
COVID-19 early warning signs increased for 2 data samples, which was the first week of May, and then it was last week. Not necessarily for the whole entire week, but it was 2 data samples. Then we saw a large dip in the last 2 tests, which was the results from Friday and then the results from yesterday we received today. So, you know, they're decreased and steady. But that was really interesting that there was 2 data samples that increased to level 2 and then dropped down to level 1. That did occur. And then hopefully by Friday we'll see if that third data will show either decrease or increase. Even the lab is trying to figure that one out as far as those jumps. We will have a CIP work study session next week, including information by the Treasury in the state of Arizona on the American Relief Rescue Plan and local fiscal recovery funds as we consider the non-entitlement unit. So we have to wait until hopefully by Thursday we'll receive the information from the state as far as guidance for those funds. Initially, we were at we received about $4 million. So we're waiting for that information. Simple Masters had to leave an emergency, but he did send his information. Update on Cesar Chavez project. APS subcontractor to work continues to work on the intersection and pole relocations, and they're still delayed by 4 weeks. Somerton Avenue pavement preservation, VSS International, pavement preservation contractor completed their slurry seal application on Somerton Avenue from County 15 to County 17. Fulton and Council Reconstruction Project, our contractor started the roadway grading and ABS, and again, ABS is late on that one too. High school area sewer improvement project was advertised in the Yuma Daily Sun, and the bid package was sent to the plant rooms
pre-bid meeting will be this Thursday, May 20th. Chief de Alba.
Mayor and council, this last week we had 2 more paramedics resign, and so that's a total of 3 in the last 4 months. We've hired 6 people in the last 6 months and lost 4 or 5, so we have 2 empty spots anyway. We have our JAWS that we got through Arizona Governor's Office of Highway Safety. It came in finally, and so all 3 crews are training on those. Are exceptional tools. And Battalion Chief Carlos, he received some UVC lights that are disinfect the ambulance and the equipment and even the station. So he's trained all 3 crews on that. They'll be using those to disinfect. And the last one is we participated in the last vaccine clinic this weekend. And so there's a little over 300 people got vaccinated. So it was a successful event. Thank you.
Economic Development, Hector Tapia.
Mayor and council members, just an update. Brisa Garcia is working really hard on the 4th of July event. One of the additions that we have, just to mention for the community, is we're going to have the 4th of July water balloon fight again this year. And the intent is to potentially beat the record that we had 2 years ago, 57,000 balloons. So that's going to be very interesting and challenging, but I think it could be done. We're going to try to do that, and like I mentioned, Brisa is really working really hard on this event. We met with the TV station. She's doing radio interviews, and also we're doing TV commercials starting June 1st. Right now they're doing the script for the what's going to be said on the commercial. Also, as you may know, tomorrow we have the COFA High welding class for the Somerton Welcome Sign project. But it was done. It's going to be presented tomorrow at the Centennial Park. They're bringing the principal, the COFA High principal is coming over, and also the welding class teacher, Christopher Smart. He gave me a list of the students that were participating on this project. 19 students were from the previous year because of the pandemic. As you know, this project was on hold for 1 year. And they had 19 students working the previous year. And this year, 11 students were able to complete the project. For tomorrow, the intent for tomorrow's event is just to present the mini tower, the water tower, and eventually in the future we're going to find a location where it's going to be established. Because of the students are leaving, I think this was the last week for them. The intent is for them to come. Only 5 were allowed to come because of the restrictions from the school. How many students can be in one place? So 5 students will show up, and your mayor is going to be signing those certificates to hand out to the students coming to the event, and also be trying to provide some thank you for Christopher Smart, the welding class teacher as well. And the other students will be, the school will mail those certificates or call them to the school to pick up the certificates. So something, appreciation, they work really hard on this. So it's a way for someone to give them thank you. Thanks.
And it's at 11:30 tomorrow at the Centric.
Yes, 11:30. I'm going to provide some water and sodas and some snacks for the participants.
Chief Juarez?
That was my bedtime reminder. Sorry. Good evening, Mayor and Council. A couple of things. We continue to work on the training for our 2 new dispatchers and our 4 officers. Our officers will be present for the promotion of the middle school. We still have our adult academy going on. We have about 5 more weeks of it. But we've had about 11 people respond that they would be showing up, and we're planning to put another one together for this summer for adults and teenagers as well. Our academy, if you would like to show up, it's every Wednesday at 6 p.m. at the Public Safety Building. And the last thing is we're asking the public to be a little bit more careful. We have some construction going on, and we've had some cones and barricades ran over, so they need to be up to make sure that we don't have any additional accidents. So that's it. Thank you.
Carmen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Planning and Zoning Commission met last night, and they reviewed the zoning code text amendments that we've been working on for the past couple of months. They reviewed it and had a lot of questions answered, but at the end, they are recommending approval. And this is going to be presented to Council at the first meeting in June, which is June 1st, for potential final approval of this. The three amendments that we're working on is the marijuana establishment, the marijuana section of the code, also the location of schools in general, and some regulations to the swimming pool section. So those are the three text amendments that we are going to be presenting to Council on June 1st. Also started working on several projects that we are reviewing, and they're all in different stages. We have at the two parlor that is potentially coming on Main Street. We have a car detailing business potentially coming at Cactus Plaza on South Somerton Avenue. We have the final plat of Max Subdivision on the northwest part of town. We also have a rezoning of land for a potential construction of apartment complex, and this is on North Somerton Avenue by Veranda Estates. And we also have the construction ongoing of La Michoacana Plaza and Valle del Sol Phase 3 that are on different stages of the process. So we are pretty busy with this right now. Lastly, the Humane Society of Yuma is not accepting cats at this time. They sent us a notice today. They are full, completely full. They're putting their cat kennels in their conference room to that point that it's so crowded that they are not accepted. So residents, Somerton residents that want to turn in their animals or even animal control cannot take cats to the Humane Society until further notice. They're only accepting ill or injured cats at this time. That's all I have.
Carmen, is the planning and zoning full right now, or is it?
Yes, it is, Mayor. Yes, it's completely full. The one that we have two potential openings, is the appeal board. We have heard that they are going to be submitting letters of reappointment, but they haven't. We haven't received any. So at this point, we have a couple of positions that are expired. So I have to send reminders to the appeal board members so they need to submit. We have an announcement made. So this one, the appeal board requires some background in construction, and there's one position that it's open that we just need a resident. That one position is the only one position that doesn't require any background in construction. So if you know of somebody that would like to, we don't meet that often, but whenever we are required, we need to have a full board. At this point, we don't. But the Planning and Zoning Commission is full at this time. Thank you.
Robbie Rodriguez.
Oh, okay. That would be great. Thank you.
Did I help?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, Assistant Mayor, Parks and Recreation Director. Just want to mention the whole team's working diligently on marketing tools for the upcoming recreational activities. Further, marketing tools like banners, club cards for the school are coming out early next week. We are requesting approval from the district today, and that should be heading out towards no later than Tuesday. Reservations have been piling up alongside all the other services that we offer, and we are visiting tomorrow the youth center, do a site visit with YMCA. Let's see what's the plan for the transfer and go from there.
try to maximize the use of that building and get the most, benefit out of it for the community and the department. Also, we have, Parks Division has been, working on a reactivation meeting. They're gonna be part of it on Thursday. So seems like correction is on board to reactivate the inmate labor program, so that's good news for the whole city. And the initial meeting's gonna be this Thursday. Also, we did receive an updated, project schedule from NEI for the skate park for Joe Munoz today, actually. And there's some progress there, considering the additional requests we requested from them, which is the larger bowl that's gonna go next to the other amenities. So that took us, geotech survey that we had to, seek. So that took a little bit more time. That's why they hadn't, forwarded the updated schedule. And that's it, thank you. Yeah.
Is the Parks and Rec Commission full?
Yes, we're still seeking 2 more members. Tomorrow we have our next regular meeting, in which we're gonna have 5 members now, and we are seeking 2 more.
So you have 3? Oh, no, you have
5.
We changed it to 7, right?
7, yes.
So if anyone knows 2 members of the community, that would be good candidates. Somerset residents, yeah. Somerset.
Yes.
I have a question. Jesus, I saw, is that for the lifeguards? I saw them on Sunday with the training or?
Yeah, for WSIs, we're getting our WSI certified for swimming lessons. We have, all the lifeguards we need for the actual monitoring, supervision, and the swimming lessons. And,
I was surprised that they were doing that on Sunday.
yeah, we had to expedite it with their ratings. We just received the certificates actually yesterday for the guards. And we're doing pretty well, registrations, everything's up on RecDisc, and we're doing well.
Who certifies the lifeguards?
Mary Jo from Phoenix, she's, contract lead.
Oh, Mr. Prosecutor.
Nothing much to report other than, on the HR side, we are in the process of open enrollment. Our deadline is next week to get everybody enrolled into those new benefit plans. We've been hearing some good feedback from employees that they really appreciate, what the plans that the council approved for them. We'll continue to work with them until we get everybody enrolled in proper plans. The other big one was this compensation study, which, believe it or not, has taken a lot of staff time, a lot of planning, and we hope to get it right. We want to get it right, and we'll present more information for you as the coming days.
Councilwoman Garcia.
Like the chief mentioned, we had a very successful vaccine clinic this Saturday with collaboration with the City of San Luis and the County Health Department. We vaccinated a little bit over 300 youth from 12 to 18. We still continue to get calls, so the next planned for second doses is June 5th. But we will be advertising it for first doses as well. The May 7th event, also we had a little bit over 200 people, and it couldn't be done without, our fire department always willing to assist. The May 7th one, they were there until 7 p.m., so kudos to them. And also, I attended the officer memorial this weekend. It's a very nice event. A lot of people were there, and I had the privilege to stand next to our Centric PD and have, I guess, people recognize, the sacrifices that they make on a daily basis. I just had a question, suggestion. I saw in your report, Chief Danda, that you have 5 firefighters this past week. I know that with PD, there's a process of, coming in and swearing in, but, now that we're back open, just suggesting, having them come in and pin them here if at all possible. Today, I think more than half of them, I really don't know. I usually just see, Chief Carlos and Hernandez and Correa, but, more than half of them I didn't know, so it'd be nice to have them here and so we can acknowledge them as well.
Not just 30 salary. And now we know who reads the report. That's going to be a fun. Councilman Gonzalez.
I just want to share this with the council, and I think we have this good news for Somerton for the high school. We the Yuma Union High School District Board, we reduced some academic square footage. We came out with a resolution and we voted on to be presented to be reported to the Arizona School Facilities Board, and I think that's going to make a huge impact in how we're going to get the 22 million that we need to move on for the total square footage. It was based on the campuses that was reported from every principal, and the spaces that they were not using as a square footage for the students or for education. And it was Yuma High School. It was also Cofa High School and San Luis High School, the ones that are, and some are at the district office as well. But overall, there was 23,100 square footage that were not used academically well, and we did the resolution that will be presented to the School Facilities Board. So, and I'm sure that's going to make a difference. And our superintendent is really working hard to get this accomplished, and believe it or not, but she's just gone above and beyond, her duties to be able to, and the same thing with the other board members. We really are trying, we talk about it every time we finish the meeting, and, and we're frustrated, but at the same time with that, trying to figure it out, like with the square footage and everything else that we're doing, it's going to help us out to make this dream come true as soon as possible. So I just want to share this with council.
Councilman Galindo. Councilman Gonzalez.
I had the opportunity to go take my daughter to the COVID vaccine here Saturday at the middle school, and it was well attended, very organized. Most of the fire department was, were helping out and giving the vaccines. There were a couple of girls that passed out. They were very nervous. Their dad was nervous with them. I thought their dad was going to pass out. And they responded right away. And I mean, they were there. So, thank you for helping out. And Councilwoman Garcia, was there. Her daughter and other daughter and, the whole family thing was helping out. So, thank you for bringing that to our youth here in Summerton. Because other than that, it would be hard to get them, to take them to. So, thank you for that. I also attended the graduation for AWC this Friday, and there was a lot of faces from Summerton, a lot of kids from Summerton, and it feels good. It feels good to see them, continue and go. I'm pretty sure, Thursday was the same thing, but there was a lot of kids from graduating us from Summerton that made me feel that I guess I'm older now. But I mean, it was nice to see them graduate and walk the line and show up and hug each other and celebrate basically, their accomplishment. It's just at the beginning of, they continue that, and I think Carlos bringing the question, I know last time he mentioned about meeting with the high school,
Carlos, I didn't know where we are with that.
I did back to Thompson and I brought to her attention, and we were thinking of, May or at the beginning of June, because, after doing all this footage stuff that she's gonna be presented to the school facility boards in the next meeting. And then, but she is willing to meet with us, so. As soon as I find out more, I'll let you guys know.
Vice Mayor.
Just want to go ahead and point out that we do have our 8th grade graduation, this Wednesday meeting. I believe you all got your invitation to take it. So, if your schedule permits, we'd be glad to have you there. I don't think we can say this enough, but no. No, it's gonna be Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Wednesday, 26th. So, I don't think I can say this enough, but, thank you,
Councilwoman Garcia, for, your efforts with the COVID vaccines and everyone involved. We really appreciate that. Councilman Gonzalez, you mentioned about the high school. Any talks about maybe putting a banner that says Home of the Future Somerton High School or anything like that?
I did talk to her about that as well, and, the only concern she has is like, it says, if we put a banner and we don't have the numbers there yet, it's just, people are just gonna get frustrated seeing that the banner's just like the one we have for Somerton right now. I mean, it's been there, over a year and a half, over a year or so?
Just a year.
Just a year, and,
They know it's coming.
yeah, but.
I mean, it's also a sign of hope.
Yeah, but if we put it, I can bring it up to our attention again, but,
you can ask her. I just wanted to just.
I don't.
And,
Wait, can the city do it? Can we do it?
We can, but
Why? No, I think, not getting involved is not it.
we're gonna get Gina around.
But I'd rather just kind of wait a little bit and see, what, okay, we'll wait.
And then waiting for 2015, right?
But thank you. But I'll bring it up again.
Home of the Somerton Water Tower.
That's all I have.
Like Vice Mayor said, want to thank everybody that participated at the vaccine clinics. Cinco de Mayo event too. It was good to see the businesses, just people getting out there. It wasn't that well attended, but at least it was a start. Just getting back to normal. It was a nice event, nice weather, good music. It was good. Also, now that we are reopening and most of the people are vaccinated, hopefully we can have, before it gets too hot, the dinner with the commissions. We can recognize them. We can have it, just talk. We had it last year here at the balcony, but we can have it at the Centennial Park in the afternoon, and we can either do something for their, for volunteering and helping out. Do some Somerton swag, shirts, hats, or something, cups, whatever. But yeah, last year we had it. I think they were appreciative of recognizing. Yeah. CD sponsor, co-sponsor. Also, like Jerry mentioned, we have the CIP meeting work session. Hopefully, council attends because, like we mentioned, it was mentioned that part of council is to look at our operation, maintenance, O&M, salary, but also what people are gonna question us on the capital improvements. What are we doing? What infrastructure are we building, or what new projects do we have? So that's also important in our equation as council members. So hopefully we haven't seen very good participation in work sessions, and this is the most important part, of being a council member, budget. And it's probably the hard decisions that we need to make. So we need to prioritize our CIPs and budget and salaries, and let's start attending the work sessions. And that's it for me. It's 9:51, meeting's adjourned.